Welcome to the Kaur and Singh VAAD-VIVAAD debate competition. We are officially in the semifinals and the debates are moving along. As you know, our 4 contestants that have advanced have received a new resolution to debate. The pro side is on my right, the neg side is on my left. Our next round of debaters are here and ready to enter the stage. So let's get this debate started. Arguing in favor of the resolution is Bhavit Singh. Welcome to the stage, Bhavit. Arguing against the resolution is Jasjot Singh. Welcome, Jasjot. Wish you both the best of luck. Let's start debate 2.
All right, so we'll start with the pro for 4 minutes. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right, your time starts now.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I affirm the resolution. All Gurdwaras in the USA should impose a ban on speeches from politicians. The value for this debate is Sikhism, and the moral framework I have chosen is Santok, meaning contentment. Santok emphasizes acceptance and contentment with one's circumstances, focusing on inner peace and spiritual well-being. Banning political speeches helps maintain this state by avoiding the discord and agitation often associated with political debates. Contention 1. Political speeches introduce conflict and discontent, disrupting the santok and peaceful atmosphere essential in Gurdwaras. Boris Johnson's speech about whiskey tariffs in a Gurdwara demonstrates how political discussions can disrupt santok, the moral framework supporting the argument for banning political speeches. Santok emphasizes inner peace and spiritual well-being, which is essential in a Gurdwara setting. However, when Johnson brought up alcohol, a deeply sensitive and religiously prohibited topic, it introduced unnecessary conflict and discomfort, disturbing the peaceful atmosphere that worshippers seek. The backlash and controversy that followed shows how political speeches can create agitation, drawing attention away from the core Sikh teachings and spiritual affection. By banning political speeches, Gurdwaras can ensure that the sanctity of the space remains intact, allowing the congregation to focus on meditation, self-discipline, and devotion, rather than being distracted by political tensions and divisive issues. A Gurbani tuk I have found is Par Ninda Paramal Mukh Sudhi Agan Krodh Chandal. The meaning is, slandering others is like putting their filth into your own mouth. The fire of anger is like an outcast who burns dead bodies, symbolizing destruction and impurity. So slander should not be in Gurdwaras because Gurdwaras are a space for spiritual growth, where Gurbani should be the focus, not slander, anger, or political conflicts. Political speeches often lead to division, criticism, or negativity, which directly contradicts Santok and the teachings of Guru Granth Sahib. Instead of engaging in debates that create discontent, the Sikh community should immerse itself in Naam Simran and Gurbani Vichar, which promote peace, unity, and spiritual well-being. Contention 2. Focusing on politics diverts attention from the core Sikh teachings of Naam Japo and Kirat Karni, undermining spiritual growth. The introduction of political speeches in Gurdwaras can shift the focus away from the core teachings of Sikhism, such as Naam Japo and Kirat Karni. Gurdwaras are intended to be a place of spiritual reflection and community unity, where individuals gather to enhance their understanding of God and live virtuous lives. When political speeches are allowed, it can distract from these practices and lead to heightened emotions and division within the community. Research has shown that places of worship should maintain a spiritual focus, as political involvement can lead to a divisive atmosphere. The Sikh community in the diaspora has often faced internal disputes related to political activism within Gurdwaras, which diminishes their role as peaceful spiritual centers. Contention 3. Banning political speeches upholds the Sikh principle of Sarbat ka Bhala, meaning welfare of all, by maintaining a harmonious environment free of partisan strife. Opinions should not be brought in the Gurdwara, as a Gurdwara is focused on the views and the perspectives of Shabad Guru. A Gurbani quote I have found is, Gurbani is jagmeet chanan, karam vasai man aaye. The meaning is, Gurbani is the light that brings clarity and spiritual guidance into the world. By His grace, it enters the mind, leading to wisdom, peace, and righteous living. Gurdwara should be a place of spiritual enlightenment, where Gurbani serves as the guiding force of Sarbat ka Bhala. Political speeches often bring division and conflict, disrupting the unity that Sikh teachings promote. By keeping the focus on Gurbani, the true light that fosters wisdom and harmony, Gurdwaras can often ensure a peaceful, inclusive environment where the entire community benefits from spiritual growth rather than political strife. That concludes my pro speech. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
All right, so we'll move to the con, unless you'd like to take some prep time.
Could I get 2 minutes of prep time?
As a reminder, you have 7 minutes for your constructive and rebuttal. Are you ready?
Yep.
Time begins now.
I negate the resolution that all Gurdwaras in the United States should impose a ban on speeches from politicians. The value for this round is Sikhi, reflecting the core teachings of the Guru Granth. Therefore, my value criterion is awareness. Allowing politicians to speak in Gurdwaras ensures that Sikhs remain informed and actively engaged in advocacy, strengthening the community's presence in broader society. Contention 1. Political speeches in Gurdwaras strengthen the community's connection to government and amplifies Sikh voices. Historically, political engagement has been a cornerstone of the Sikh community, with figures like Dalip Singh Sound, the first Asian American congressman, paving the way for Sikh representation in government. Despite Sikhs making up approximately 0.1% of the United States population, political representation remains underdeveloped. This lack of representation diminishes Sikhs' ability to influence policies that directly impact our community. Studies have shown that direct political outreach lead to increased civic participation. In 2020, Asian American voter turnout rose by 10% in states where political campaigns actively engage with them. In the modern era, this allows active agents of change, a modern embodiment of Sikh principles of self-defense and effective awareness. Contention 2. Political speeches in Gurdwaras provide an accurate and reliable source of political information, therefore reducing misinformation. Today, misinformation spreads 70% faster than truth on social media. For minority communities like Sikhs, access to first-hand political discourse is essential to counter misinformation that often circulates. Without speeches from politicians, Sikhs would be forced to rely on fragmented and potentially biased sources around the world. Jivan Nal, Sach Samundar Rangiya, Ang 1303. This line signifies that wisdom or such colors every part of life. It encourages us to seek truth in all aspects of our lives, including politics. In this context, Gurdwaras can be seen as a vital source of truth in political discussions, helping to dispel misinformation and allowing the Sikh community to critically evaluate political issues. Studies indicate that minority communities receiving direct political outreach are 60% more likely to stay informed about important legislation. Contention 3. Miri Piri, a core Sikh principle, mandates both spiritual and political engagement, making speeches in Gurdwaras essential. Sikhism is founded on the principle of Miri Piri, which teaches that spiritual and worldly life are inseparable and equally as important. Allowing politicians to speak in Gurdwaras aligns with this by ensuring that Sikhs are politically informed and able to advocate for issues affecting their community, while creating a space where spiritual and political matters can work in sync. In the wake of the 1984 Sikh genocide, Gurdwaras played a pivotal role in raising awareness about atrocities being committed and advocating for justice through speech. Politicians who speak at Gurdwaras often bring national attention to issues driving change. For instance, after the rise of anti-Sikh hate crimes following the 9/11 attacks, Congresswoman Judy Chu addressed Sikhs at Gurdwaras, raising awareness of discrimination faced by Sikhs and advocating for the Sikhs Hate Crimes Prevention Act. Without this platform, without political speeches taking place in Gurdwaras, Sikhs would lose an essential means of raising awareness and advocating for rights.
You still have 3 minutes for your rebuttal speech.
Moving on to my rebuttals. Judge, my value premise is Sikhi, upheld by my criterion of awareness, which provides the clearest framework for today's round. I will now address my opponent's case and prove my claims superior. My opponent argues that political speeches should be banned from Gurdwaras to maintain their sanctity, but this view is fundamentally flawed. Gurdwaras have always been places where Sikhs engage with important societal issues, including political ones. The Sikh community faces challenges such as hate crimes and discrimination, and these issues need to be addressed at levels of government. Politicians speaking at Gurdwaras can help raise awareness, provide support, and empower Sikhs to advocate for themselves. My opponent also claims that Gurdwaras should be neutral spaces free from any political influence. However, this ignores the historical role of the Gurdwara in activism and community engagement. Gurdwaras have historically been involved in shaping political discourse, whether advocating for human rights, justice, or the rights of the entire community. Banning political speeches would limit this tradition and turn Gurdwaras into isolated, politically passive institutions. Sikh activism is a part of our identity, and the Gurdwara has always been a space where we can come together to discuss and act on issues that affect us all. This situation is similar to saying a school should only teach academic subjects and not address issues like bullying or mental health. Just as a school is not just for learning facts, a Gurdwara is not just for prayer, it's a place for both spiritual growth and addressing societal issues to impact the Sangat. Additionally, I would like to note that not all political speeches are debates, and some speeches can be beneficial for the entire Sikh community. Therefore, I can conclude my rebuttals.
Thank you so much. We move back to the pro, unless you'd like to take any prep time.
I'd like to have 3.5 minutes.
Sounds good. Are you ready? All right. You have 3 minutes with your time starting now.
So now I'd like to provide my rebuttal. So if I take a look at my opponent's first contention, we can attack the part where he said that politics are big in Sikhi. Yes, I do agree politics are big in Sikhi, but they do not have to be brought into the Gurdwara. They can be spoken about outside the Gurdwara, as the Gurdwara is a place where you come in and focus on Gurbani, and that should be your main focus while in the Gurdwara, right? And these things can be brought outside. That's why there's institutions like SALDEF or Sikh Coalition, which counteract the misinformation that's brought up. If one idea is brought up, that's why these like companies are made, SALDEF and Sikh Coalition, so that the misinformation is not spread and the right ideas are told to Sikhs, right? And my opponent in his second contention said a Gurbani talk about seeking truth, yet the truth is Vaheguru. The truth is not that we should be speaking about politics. The truth is that we shouldn't let these illusions get to us. The truth is Vaheguru. If you take the word Satanam, which is true, the truth, right? Politics, we don't know if politics are going to be there in our future. But what we do know is we're going to be there in our future is Vaheguru. So we should concern ourselves with Vaheguru and Gurbani and the Gurdwara rather than politics. Not that Sikhs should not be engaged in politics. Yes, they should, but not in the Gurdwara, where the main focus should be Gurbani and Shabad Guru. In the third contention, it was spoke again how in the Gurdwara you can stay informed and then you can advocate. You can stay informed outside, and it makes more sense to advocate outside the Gurdwara where there's not only Sikhs, right? It doesn't make sense to do it inside the Gurdwara where there are only Sikhs, then you have a bigger audience outside the Gurdwara. It was also spoke about the rise of attacks on anti-Sikh beliefs, and that's why again these institutions are made like SALDEF and Sikh Coalition to counteract and teach people what the truth is. And it was also spoke that without these speeches then we can't advocate, but the politicians that are coming in are essentially not actually advocating. They either want donations or they want to increase their voter base. They're not actually trying to advocate to the Sikhs or properly understand what's happening. You'll see that when politicians come, they speak that they are very interested in the Sikh religion. They come for the speech, they leave. They don't try and stay for the Divan, understand the actual Gurbani that's there. So why should we let them come and provide slander to us and not actually inform us on something, right? So that concludes my rebuttal. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Would you like to take any time before your crystallization?
Yes, can I have my remaining time?
Absolutely.
Time starts now.
All right. 3 minutes. Your time begins now.
I would like to provide my closing remarks and why I believe that I won this debate. Once again, I'm affirming the resolution that all Gurdwaras in the USA should impose a ban on speeches from politicians. I'll go over my contentions first. My first contention is based on that these political speeches will cause conflict and discontent and disrupt the peaceful atmosphere that is essential in Gurdwaras. So the congregation that is in a Gurdwara is focused on meditation and should only be focused on the Gurbani and Shabad Guru that is being read, recited, etc. Right? So these politicians coming telling us maybe which we don't even know is false information, that they just want to tell us to appeal to us. It's not actually because that's what they believe. Once again, Gurdwaras are a space for spiritual growth where you come and you personally grow as a Sikh in your journey. And you should be focused in the Gurdwara on the Naam Simran or the Gurbani Vichar, which will promote your own peace and your unity and your well-being, right? If we take a look at my second contention, the practices of allowing politicians to come in are going to cause heightened emotions and create a divide within the community, when there's no need for a divide because we're all one. We're all one as Sikhs, right? We're all equal. There's no reason for us to be differentiating ourselves. Once again, opinion should not be brought into the Gurdwara, right? Because there's only one view in the Gurdwara, which is Shabad Guru, the Guru Granth Sahib Ji's view. There's no other ideas that should be brought in because we've already determined that there's only one idea. The Gurus have made it so that everything we need in our life is in the Guru Granth Sahib Ji and is in the hukam of the, right? There's no need for an outside perspective, a politician to come and tell us something else, which when we know everything that we need to know in our life, in our path to reach the end, is in the Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So once again, if I'll go over my rebuttals again, I'm not disagreeing that politics are big in Sikhism, but they should not be brought into the Gurdwara in a place where our focus should be something else. And these politicians that are coming in, once again, they're not really advocating to us Sikhs. They're not really meaning everything that they say. They just want the votes from us. They're also not informed on the Sikh religion as much when they come in. They may come in and speak about topics that may cause problems in the Sikh community. And once again, other than Vaheguru, all else is an illusion, is Maya, right? That word comes up in Guru Granth Sahib Ji a lot. We think that these things matter actually, but they don't. The only thing that dies with us is our Sach, right? Is Vaheguru. These politics, when we pass away, are we still going to be remembering them? Is they're going to be with us? No. None of this stuff is going to stay with us as we move on in our life. Only thing that is going to stay with us is Vaheguru. So that's what we should be concerned with our life. So that's why I believe I won this debate and why Gurdwaras should ban speeches on politicians. Thank you. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Awesome. All right. Khan, would you like to take time or are you ready?
How much time do I have left?
3 minutes left.
Can I get all of them? Thank you.
Are you ready? All right. Your time begins now.
Judges, as we approach the end of this round, I will crystallize the key points I've decisively won and showcase how they defeat my opponent's case. I will demonstrate why these points are not just important, but absolutely crucial in upholding my case and proving the supremacy of my framework, which is awareness over theirs, santok. The first point I've unquestionably won is that my opponent underestimates the power of political engagement in Gurdwaras. Sikhs have always been a marginalized community, and the only way we can shift the tide in our favor is by using the political space available to us. And the only way we can do that is by banning political speeches would be like cutting off accessible lifelines to influence policy, particularly on issues like hate crime prevention and immigration laws. Politicians who speak in Gurdwaras help push our issues to the forefront, as seen with Congresswoman Judy Chu's efforts after 9/11. Without this vital platform, we become nothing more than silent bystanders. Secondly, my opponent fails to acknowledge that in today's world, where misinformation spreads like wildfire, Gurdwaras offer a sanctuary of truth. Banning political speeches means cutting Sikhs off from reliable, first-hand political information. Without direct engagement, we are left to fend for ourselves in a sea of half-truths and biased narratives. Politicians in Gurdwaras help us cut through the noise, provide accurate information. And lastly, my opponent completely disregards the most basic principle of Sikhism, Miri Piri. This doctrine clearly states that spiritual and worldly matters are inseparable and equally as important. And for Sikhs to be effective in the world, they must be politically aware and active. By banning political speeches, my opponent strips Gurdwaras of their ability to teach this fundamental Sikh value. History has shown us that Gurdwaras have played a crucial role in advocacy and justice. Therefore, based on the overwhelming victory of these key points, I've unquestionably upheld my value premise of awareness over santok. Every argument I presented has collapsed the affirmative case, and each point has reinforced why I am the clear winner of this round. Thank you.
Thank you so much for such a great round.
Hello, judges.
Hello.
Well, that was really close, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was.
I, as a coach, was so impressed by the quality of evidence and the clash that we just saw. I was thinking, what are some of the threads that I could pull on that really summarize the debate? I want to put two themes that really jumped out to me in front of you all for discussion. I think the first thing that really jumped out was this tension that Bhavat raised about the importance of maintaining spiritual sanctity within a Gurdwara, which is why he chose Santokh as his moral framework and defined it as inner peace, maintaining the well-being of the Gurdwara, in contrast with what Jasjot raised and the importance of political engagement. And his value framework accordingly was awareness, right? And so I think that was sort of the central tension. And on Bhavat's side, we heard him talking about the importance of Gurdwara being a space for Nam, Bani, Seva, and Simran. And then on the other side, just Jyoth talking about, well, it's still important to be politically engaged, talking about issues like hate crimes and discrimination, and the Sikh community being able to stand up for itself.
Great debate.
Yeah, it was definitely amazing, and I don't know, it was really tough. But personally, I feel like I've came down to a decision. But I still want us to walk through it. Still get a great understanding. I want to see your all's perspective too. But I think one thing that really stood out to me on the pro side was the Boris Johnson example, right?
Yeah.
I think it's kind of crazy that you're bringing alcohol to the Gurdwara, talking about that. He's a big political figure, or was a big political figure in Britain. He was brought to Gurdwara, and he kind of, I guess, misused that power within the Gurdwara, right? And Bhavat's made a very good point that it kind of destroyed the Santokh, right? On the con side, what really stood out to me was the BDPD, right? That is a very strong element in Sikhi, and I think that point alone really moved me a lot. But I want to hear you guys as well, like what really stood out to you guys from the argument from both sides.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. So as I was going through the debate, I also loved that there was clash between their value frameworks of Santokh and awareness, and they talked about it a bit. But I think the way that I was looking at the debate, the Boris Johnson example actually wasn't mentioned after the first time it brought up. Ned didn't really address it, so I thought that was a really strong point about examples of manipulation. And then there was also a quote from Gurbani that Bhavat presented that I thought was really powerful in terms of I can't remember the exact wording and exact translation, but it talked about the fire of anger and how insults are one of the prime things that can, soil our minds, soil our souls. And I thought that was a powerful example of he was saying look, Boris Johnson did this. Our Gurbani says this is the worst thing that can happen. So why are we trying to do more of this? But then on the other side, just Jyoth did an amazing job of basically making his case. I also really, really was impressed by his use of evidence, because of course it's important to use Gurbani, which he did, but he also, for one of the first times that we've seen, used a lot of statistics, like the 0.1% of the population with unequal representation, 70% faster does misinformation spread online as opposed to in person without, as compared to accurate information. And then the 60% quote about, with more direct political outreach, 60% more people voted, and the 10% increase in the actual voter population. So I was like, okay, wow, we're getting very tangible facts of the impacts of specific outreach and awareness. So I think the back and forth was really about this idea of, I think you said this at some point, but there's both acknowledging that there's positives and negatives to having political speech at Gurdwara. So I think our job is to weigh who made the better case. Was the case better on, yes, we need to be focusing on spirituality primarily? Does that have more weight? Or does the impacts of Sikh Sangats being reached out to have more weight? Who gets that weight argument? Because I think both of them did make an argument for why those things are important within Sikhi. So that's kind of where I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good summary from both of you. Just to add here, I think the affirmative case really sets on this idea of maintaining the peace within the Sanghat and Sindhok to the Gurdwara, right? Like making sure that there's no agitation in the Sanghat, making sure that there's no divide, and the Gurdwara is continuously welcoming to everybody. And I think the cards, especially incorrect speeches from politicians, really leads to this like negative atmosphere and really goes against essentially the Sindhok and the peaceful environment that's created during the VAAD. And another point is that the affirmative was trying to push is that politicians are not necessarily there for advocacy and maybe there for voting, and they don't stay for the VAAD. I think that's a good point. How many times do we see them come in at the end of the VAAD? A lot of them don't even know how to do matatig. Etiquette is not also followed, although these points were not brought up, just, adding that in. Yeah. But I think the negative came back and said, they had that Judy Chu crime anxiousness, if you like, after 9/11, look at the Sikh hate crimes act that was passed, right? So like, I think the negative had really strong evidence where there are examples where the political speeches and political presence or discussions actually do make a difference in the community. Yeah. And I think the negative case did really come back and say, like, just briefly towards the end of the rebuttal, that not all speeches are bad, some are good. Yeah. So it also comes down to, do we let the sum of good outweigh the Sindhok that we're trying to maintain in the VAAD hall? Because there are strong resources that we can pull from these discussions in the Gurdwara space. And that also ties in the Niri aspect that you were talking about. I think the burden in this case essentially comes down to not all speeches are bad, some are good. Can the affirmative, that burden is on the affirmative to disprove, actually everything is disruptive.
Or even to say that there's a weight difference, like that even if some are good, the weight of the bad is worse. And I don't know if we heard that, but the one point I do think does go to the pro is on this idea of, obviously within Sikhi, the idea of spiritual connection is important. The Boris Johnson card wasn't fully responded to directly. Yeah. So I do give that to the pro. But also what I found really interesting in the pro final crystallization is the idea of Maya that he brought up in the end, where he said, these are all distractions of the Sikh religion, and we can't bring in much external knowledge. But the one thing I will say is that he didn't fully tie that out. So I wasn't sure how to weigh that, but he did say in his response to accurate and reliable information that within Sikhi, there is only one truth, and that truth is Vaheguru, which I don't know. I don't think we can bring in interpretations of Gurbani to our deliberations, but I think there wasn't much response from just JUS on that and saying different, truth sure is Vaheguru, but what does Vaheguru tell us to do in this life? And what does that truth mean in terms of action? So I wish we saw a little bit of pushback on the Gurbani aspect from just JUS, because I think Bhavit was making important points about and we have to take his words as what we evaluate. And if he is saying that Guru Granth Sahib Ji is telling us that this is truth, and then we're connecting this truth to Santokh, my value framework applies and his doesn't. Yeah. So I think that's the one thing where I'm also leaning towards Nick, but that's the one thing that's making me think, did we get responses from just JUS on that? And how do we weigh that piece?
Yeah. But I also think the crystallization was not done as clearly from the affirmative. Yeah. I think you were doing a great job of summarizing the case, but I didn't see that from Bhavit in the debate. I think we're able to put this together. Another thing is, I think since the truth was kind of brought in the final speech from the affirmative side, that puts a little bit of harsh burden on the negative case, that it could have been brought up actually never mind for the speech order. Sorry. Yeah. But again, I don't think that framework was presented from the affirmative case in the debate round. It was just,
he did say that piece about Maya and its connection to truth, connection to Santokh.
But I think it was a little more disconnected.
It was a bit more disconnected. I just want to make sure that when we consider that point, we consider everything Bhavit said, because a lot of things are stacking up in favor of neg. Yeah. But it was a strong argument. And I think the one thing that leans me back neg is that I wish pro did also bring up why his framework was better. Yeah. But neg did that. Neg said in his final speech, these are the like my framework of awareness. And I think he actually did say it when he said, my opponent is undermining the power and the impact of political engagement, which is why my value criterion matches more closely to Sikhi than, I don't know if he said it like that, but he was saying things along the lines, he's the only one that brought up value criterion to the end.
Yeah, and I don't know, I also forgot to, I don't know if you guys mentioned this already. There was a few things that I think we haven't mentioned.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Just also brought up that bullying is taught in schools. And that
was good.
But like, you know, you also learn other things in school. So he basically applied that as like, he also juxtaposed that with the Gurdwara.
Yeah, that was
where,
true.
you know, like that kind of took away Buffett's spiritual argument that, that, you know, spirituality, it's not just for a place of spirituality. And then also, like, this is really small. He also said that not all speeches are bad.
Yeah.
Negative, right?
Which I think is actually pretty big.
Yeah.
Good point.
It's like a quick little statement, but it puts a lot of burden on the affirmative.
Exactly, yeah. So, since, you know, we talked pretty, you know, thoroughly about this, like, do you think we came to like a consensus here?
I think so. I think I was leaning that way as we started talking. I just wanted to make sure we really gave pro the opposite, like we really went through pro's arguments because there was a lot of strong stuff there. And I just want to give the points to the pro that they deserve in terms of like, they did a great job in the structure of their speeches. Like the way that pro went about the rebuttals, saying this argument, this response, this argument, this response. I think like if we got a little bit more of some of the content clashes, but I do want to give credit to pro for, I think that was one of the best structures that we've seen.
Of course.
Right. Amazing debate though. I think that was just incredible to see the quality of arguments and the quality of their frameworks and the quality of clash. So want to do the honors?
Sure.
Big side.
Yes. And then do we also want to talk about speaker points?
I would give just JUS a 9. And then I would give Buffett like a 7 or 8. But I'm leaning towards 7. But that is up to you guys. Awesome.
I think I would say for just JUS an 8.5 and for Bo the 7.5.
Okay. I think I'll give them both an 8 from my end. I'll give them.
So another type of fallacy that's often used in debate arguments comes from a type of statistical bias we call selection bias. So selection bias is when we specifically select for a group of people and then we assume that that group of people can be expanded to everything. As an example, you know, if we say from these 8 students, you know, wow, the Sikh youth has great debating skills. Well, I'm sure, and I hope that one day that becomes the case, and I'm sure that the Sikh youth has the potential for that. But, you know, let's keep in mind, this 8 who came, this was selected from a pool of, you know, maybe 24 contestants, whittled down to 14 contestants who came in the preliminaries, whittled down to the group of 8. So you can't make big kind of assumptions from the small group of 8. So that applies to a lot of things. This is a very relevant kind of problem in statistics, where we, in our day-to-day lives, we select for very specific, we hang with very specific groups of people. Even as Sikhs, we might only hang with members of a certain jathebandi or a certain, you know, group, and or a certain sangat, and we might extrapolate things about our bigger, you know, panth and sangat from that. And it's very important to kind of work against this bias, and try to understand the larger realm if we're trying to understand the truth about the larger realm as well.
Welcome to the VAAD-VIVAAD debate competition. You've been following along in the semifinals round. Debate 2 was an intense matchup, but our judges have spoken. I have the results right here with me. Of course, before we get to them, we'll do the audience favorites. As per usual, you've been voting, we've been tallying your votes, and this week's audience favorite is... JUS Singh! Once again, Jasjot, the audience loves you. What do you have to say to them?
This was a really nice opportunity, and I'm so glad that you liked my performance.
All right, folks, it's time to announce the winner of debate 2. And once again, this is just the second debate out of 4 debates. These contestants will be swapping sides and arguing the opposite point. But for today's debate, the judges, evaluating based on the Lincoln Douglas criteria, have chosen the winner. Jasjot Singh! Okay, congratulations. You guys want to shake hands?
I'm Upkaran Singh Pogal, a tech professional and real estate investor. Like many people, I used to think the only way to build wealth was by working hard at a 9-to-5 job. That all changed when I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The book opened my eyes to the power of investing, how real estate can create passive income and long-term wealth rather than just relying on a paycheck. I realized that building a portfolio of properties was a way to create financial freedom and gain control over my future. So I dove into real estate investing, and let me tell you, it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made. Investing is key to securing financial independence. Whether you're looking for side income or a long-term strategy, real estate can make it happen. I'm passionate about giving back and teaching others how to get started on their investing journey too. So, if you're interested in learning more about real estate investing, feel free to follow me on Instagram and shoot me a DM.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. This is Harman Singh, Executive Director of the Sikh Coalition. For more than 20 years, the Sikh Coalition has worked to reduce hate, violence, and discrimination experienced by the Sikh community. Nationwide, we work in the court system, in policy, in education, community development, and media and communications to raise the Sikh profile and build a new future for Sikh youth. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.